Hello, and welcome back to the Recruitment Coach podcast with me, Martin Hodgkinson. Today, we're going to be talking about one thing that you're not doing in your hiring process that's holding your agency back from unbelievable growth. There's huge irony in the recruitment world. We spend our lives talking to clients about how they can improve their hiring process and set them up for success. Yet, the turnover in recruitment is ridiculous. We're constantly churning through people and we test their sales ability and their culture fit and how they carry themselves in the interview process. But we're just missing one key thing. Very few agencies test for coachability in their interview process. And in my experience of coaching and training recruiters, those who make the biggest jumps in performance and actually help drive agencies forwards are the ones who are coachable. But most recruiters have the same reaction when they're told that they're going to be getting coaching. They get defensive. They put the barriers up because they feel like they don't need training or coaching and they know everything they need to know. They feel like they won't learn anything and it's going to be a waste of their time. And they interpret the whole you're going on coaching or you're going to receive coaching or training as the leaders or the manager saying you aren't good at your job. And nobody wants to hear that, right? So this interpretation means that when they start coaching, they aren't in the mindset to be coached. And if you've ever tried to coach someone who doesn't want to be coached, then you'll know it's just a bit like pulling teeth, really. It's really painful and it's hard. I once worked with a consultant who wasn't coachable, and we spent every session doing the same thing. We spoke about the same issues, we took up large parts of the session, redoing the same things, going over the same problems that they were having, discussing the same jobs. They've been working the same job over and over again for weeks on end with no results. They hadn't done their follow-up, so I was talking about them doing their follow-ups and the importance of doing their follow-ups, and their admin wasn't done. And eventually it got to the point where we had to sit down with them and have a difficult conversation. And we all decided that the job probably wasn't for them as they weren't willing to change. And nobody wants to have that conversation. Nobody wants their recruiters to have to go through that. But the ones who are coachable, they have a whole different mindset. They really embrace the coaching. And when they're told that they're going to be getting coaching or training, they really look forward to it. They're excited by it. And they're looking forward to finding out how they can actually improve and become better and get the success that they were hoping for. So coaching these people is an absolute dream. They're receptive and they hold themselves accountable and they implement the content and see huge changes. So I once worked with a consultant who was extremely coachable. When we started, they were on the brink of quitting recruitment and they weren't achieving any success. They were stressed, they were struggling, like they just kept chasing the wrong things and they were getting pressure from all angles and they just weren't enjoying themselves. It didn't seem worthwhile. But they threw themselves into the coaching and they were prepared and ready for every session. They had notes and questions ready to ask me so we could cover off all of those issues that they had. And every session, the action points from the previous session had been implemented, and we could see things moving forward and we could discuss new topics and focus on the new challenges that they were getting. And 5 months later, they were not only consistently billing, they were billing well, and they were winning new clients with higher terms and fees than anyone else in the office, and they'd hit their year-end target with 2 months to go. So you can see the difference there in the two people that have been coached, in one being coachable and one not. So what do you need to look for to see if somebody is coachable? So in my opinion, there's four things that you need to really look for. So firstly, have they got a growth mindset? So are they constantly looking to improve? Are they open to having assumptions and beliefs challenged? Do they double down and refuse to see other people's points of view? because that's a big red flag if they do. The second one would be no fear of failure. So they aren't afraid to try and fail. The fear of failure is what kind of holds people back from being successful a lot of the time, because they worry that they're not going to be good enough or something won't work. And ultimately, things aren't going to work, but you learn and you adapt. And if you don't try the first time, you're not going to be able to learn and adapt and then achieve that success later on. And things do get hard in recruitment. So you need to try new things. And otherwise, you're just going to be the same as everybody else and not achieve greatness. So accountability is the third one. So do they hold themselves accountable, even if it wasn't their responsibility or their fault? So do they understand that they had a part to play and they could have potentially done something different, which would have potentially changed the outcome of that situation? Perseverance would be the last one. So perseverance and resilience are skills that a lot of recruiters just don't have. Um, but when the going gets tough, you need somebody to be able to carry on, and not just carry on by going through the motions and making the dials and doing half-assed calls, but actually carrying on with a purpose, with drive, with positivity, searching for that opportunity that's going to change the day, change the month. So how do we test for these things in the recruitment process? So firstly, you can just do the standard format of asking questions. So you can ask questions that relate to these four areas. So find out if somebody's got a growth mindset. You could ask sort of, when was the last time you enrolled on a course? When was the last time you read a personal development book? And those sorts of questions. And find out, what did they take from it and how did they implement it? Because it's all well and good doing these things, but if they've got a growth mindset, they're not only going to do them, but they're going to take things away. They're going to implement things. They're going to try things, right? So fear of failure. When was the last time you failed? It's a nice simple one. What was your biggest failure? How did that failure make you feel? Then you could move into accountability straight after and find out, what could they have done differently to improve the outcome, or find out, if it was part of a team, whose fault was it? Because if they say, oh, it was this person's fault, or it was nobody's fault, they're not taking any accountability there. If they say it was the everybody's fault in the team, they're understanding that the whole team had a part to play and every single person could have done something different, or it might even have been their fault. And if they just put their hands up and say, yeah, it was my fault, great. They've acknowledged that it was their fault. So perseverance, you start to talk about these times that they failed. Find out if they tried again, because yes, they may have been accountable for it and they may know the lessons learned, but then did they do it again? Did they try again to get a different outcome? You could also dive into, what was the hardest thing that they've ever done and how did they get through it? It doesn't have to be work related. It could be a marathon. It could be a competition of some form where they've had to really dig deep and keep themselves motivated and keep going. And they will have had days or moments that were tough and they did want to quit, but they got through it and they moved on and they achieved it. So asking questions is a great way to get examples of previous situations and get a sense of the person and, you know, how they come across in these situations, and you get a sense if it's true or not. But we actually want to see these things live. So I'm a big fan of having a practical element in an interview. So an easy one is to get them to do phone calls. So when I first started in recruitment, my first interview, I had to actually make candidate qualification calls. I had to call clients, had to call candidates. That would have been pretty out there, wouldn't it? Had to call candidates who had no idea about their job role, their industry, and qualify them. I got given a list of questions and some information that I needed to find out, and off I went, made the call. From doing this, you can see if they've got that fear of failure. You can see kind of how they're actually going to be on the phone, what they're going to be like day to day, because this is a big part of the day, like for a recruiter, hopefully. So if they don't enjoy it, maybe they shouldn't be in the job. So they might think, actually, oh, it's not for me. And straight away, that's a good result for you because it's somebody that shouldn't be in the job that isn't going to be in the job. But you also then get that sense of how are they on the phone? Are they good? Can you make something from them because they're raw, right? They don't know what they're doing. If they're new to recruitment, this is. So you get a sense of that. But what you can do, take it a step further. Once they've done that call, sit with them, review it. So when they're doing this call, you're taking notes. If you want to, you could also play that call back if you've got that call recording functionality. Get them to listen to it and make notes. You make notes. Discuss the call. Come up with some action points for the next call. Get them to do another call. Did they implement those action points? Did that call get a little bit better? We're not expecting it to be massive difference. We're not expecting them to be polished and ready to go. That's not the point of this exercise. The point is, can they take that feedback, internalize it, and use it? So it doesn't necessarily have to be live calls if you don't want them doing that, because again, if people don't answer the phone, then you could be there for hours. You could do role play. You could get them doing a role play phone call with yourself or somebody else. They don't even have to know it's role play. They could be calling somebody in the office on an actual phone, but they don't know that's not a real candidate. But you could do some form of role play and do the same process. You could even get them doing an admin task. So can they format a CV? Can they write an email? Can they make a social post, depending on what it is that you want? Can they make a video? But do the same process of do, review, redo. So you want them to do it, sit there with them and review it, and then get them to redo it and see if they've implemented any of that stuff. So it's quite simple changes that you can make to your interview process, but you will see a drastic change when you start to test for coachability in the interview process. You'll start to see the people that you thought, actually, yeah, they're quite good, I could make something of those, might not actually fit the bill anymore. And those that might not be cutting it in your current interview process because they're not at the level, might actually make it through because they've got the potential and the ability to take on board everything that you've said and all the coaching and development and rise above the potential of the other people. You'll start to see that retention of your staff because they're actually doing what's been asked of them, and they're getting the training and the coaching, and they're developing themselves, and they're constantly looking to be better and striving to be better. And that's only going to help your agency, right? Because constant turnover of staff is really expensive, it's time consuming, it's tedious because you're constantly doing the same things over and over again. But if you can get the right people in the first place who are going to grow and develop and be successful and stay, then you can actually grow your business far quicker just from this one little tweak. So that's it from me for this episode. If you want to hear any more of my content, I've got multiple episodes you can listen to. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I've got a TikTok. If you're on TikTok, at Recruitment Coach Martin, or you can drop me a message and ask any advice, or even we can start working together to help create a fantastic L&D strategy for your agency to help you grow. So catch you next time on the Recruitment Coach Podcast.